Good morning. My name is Amberly Labbit. This is for a Psychology 103 course for Chapter 7 in Human Development, Cultural Approach. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit about psychoanalyzing the bully himself or herself, and a little bit on the cultural approach in that aspect. The reason for that is because in middle school, there's a lot of emotional and social claims to fame happening, and that's usually when a lot of bullying will start. And I think that has a lot to do with the child going through a sense of finding himself or herself and being this independent person that is not necessarily needing to listen to what mom or dad or that other older person is telling them at home, but then also trying to seek some sort of guidance outside of the home or support system outside of the home. And so then they try and find that social claim to fame. And in the midst of all of that, there's usually 3 different types of children that come to be found in middle school and in early high school years. And I've labeled some of them here and listed some of their attributes, their characteristics. The first one is the snubbed one, I like to call them. That's the child that's usually outcasted or rejected, and they tend to be more aggressive. They tend to cause more conflict, probably because they're acting out, they're lashing out because they want to see, some sort of a reaction. And they really don't have a lot of self-control. They are emotionally unstable and tend to end up reclusing themselves, working alone on projects and activities, and then they end up getting bad grades because the teachers are trying to get them to establish some sort of a social role and and not do this reclusive outcasting type of an attitude or persona. And that's exactly what they end up doing all by themselves because of being outcasted. But it could be something that's inside their head. It could be something that's paranoia, but it could also just be because of at home not understanding the right ways of processing certain social roles, not understanding the way that people are talking to them or the way that they are supposed to behave per se. Sometimes they get a little hostile, or they'll accuse others of doing something wrong versus them doing it wrong, and that's usually what you would call a sociopath because they can never see that they do anything wrong. That's later in life, of course. This is usually between, ages 4 and 10. So often the child is going to feel like an outcast, like a loner. They're not going to want to go to school. They're just going to want to stay inside. And if that's not the case, then they will pretend like they're going to school and they'll go ditch, which is even worse because then they're getting into even more problems outside of school and outside of the home. There's a lot of aggressive, impulsive behavior, which causes massive social issues later with peers, parents, teachers, siblings, future relationships. It really indicates future endeavors that are going to be problematic for that child, the snubbed one. Then there's the shirked one that is also a mistreated child, and that's because they are manipulated and they're fearful of any kind of a conflict because they don't want to have a scene drawn around them, or they don't want to cause any kind of issues because they don't want to end up the snubbed one. They don't want to end up the reject. So they try and just conform to anything possible just in order to be the cool one. If you look in the image in the center, these girls in the movie Mean Girls, it's a perfect example. The two girls in the center want to be, just like the girl on the right, because she's this badass high school chick that everybody wants to be like and everybody is afraid of or intimidated by. And the girl on the left is like, why? Why do we have to be just like her? Why do we have to dress just like her with the short skirts and the cute pink sweater tops and have our hair like that and act ditzy when really we're not, or hold that little clutch purse, just all of the attitudes and demeanors and conformities of these two girls in the middle depicts the shirked one, because they don't talk about how they feel about the girl on the right being mean to them, or saying, that was a dumb remark, don't say that, kind of a thing. Or it's just really sad. Or even these girls down here that are conforming with the blonde-headed girl, laughing at this girl that feels like the shirked one, or excuse me, the snubbed one. So the girls here are the shirked ones, the girl here is the snubbed one, and this girl is that contentious one. And she's the one that has good social skills, she's charismatic, she's aggressive, assertive, she's popular and able to manipulate and conform others in such a way where she can form these cliques and then, exclude others. It's really sad to see. I dealt with it when I was in junior high school and in high school. Girls are just nasty, and so are boys. Boys can be the same exact way. This boy's dealing with it with these people, and there's this little girl that's even, a little tomboy with these boys, but you notice that this boy is really bigger. So he's the controversial one, whereas these two are the shirked ones, and this one's the snubbed one. And you see it all the time in school, and it's really sad, but it's the way that it ends up being because of this conformity or molding into the social claim to fame. And so they say that it can't happen or it shouldn't happen, but it really does happen almost inevitably, especially in this day and age. And so we really need to be educated and aware of the reasons and the rhymes on why it ends up happening the way it does. The other thing is within middle-aged childhood development, in this bullying issue, there's really three main components to bullying, and that's aggression, repetition, and imbalance. And aggression has to do with this verbal and physical abuse that is being projected onto other children that are smaller than another bully. And this could be at home even, which is really sad. And I'll get into that in just a second, which is, a lot of the reasons why bullies become bullies. But repetition is where this is happening every single day. I remember when I was in junior high school, every morning I would worry about going to the bus stop because there was this girl that would always pick on me. And she was horrible. And, it started from the moment that I got to the bus stop, and it didn't stop until the moment I got home. It was all day long, every day. And it was the worst thing in the world. It beat into my head that I was something that I wasn't. And it really put into my mind a stigma of myself that was completely erroneous. And that allows for this horrible sense of imbalance where you feel inferior, and there's a severe inferiority complex that ends up developing because of it, and it's a horrible feeling. So this happens mainly in junior high school, but it worsens as ages progress, because if they get it fed in junior high and it's allowed in junior high school, and their parents teach them that this is the way that it's supposed to be, or even older siblings teach them that this is the way that it's supposed to be, then they think that it's okay later on in life, and then they form relationships with people that also think it's okay in life, and then they're that way in adulthood as well. And I know a few, which is sad. This is not just in the United States. This is all over the world. This is an estimated 20% of all children that end up being victims of bullies. But also, you have to think about that if 20% of children are victims of bullies, there's also 20% of bully victims. That means, boys are most often bullies and victims, bully victims. But the thing that I would like you to think about is that the bully victim is going to bully because of what happens to them at home. So if we really take into consideration that aspect, then maybe we can stop the bullying at school. Because really we need to get into the heads of those, into the psyches of those that are a bully victim. Like this picture right here of this poor little boy and the mom, and the way that she's being this authoritarian figure and probably telling him some horrible, horrible things about himself. And then he's just completely depressed, and what is he going to do? He's going to project his pain out on somebody at school. And what do people do when they project pain? They project anger, because the only way that they feel they have control over their pain is through anger. Unfortunately, this is what we deal with in this day and age. This is what we've dealt with since the beginning of time. It's just the way that our psychological makeup is. Anyway, boys are usually the ones that want to be physical and verbal, but girls are the ones that want to primarily be verbal attackers. Like when I was in junior high school, I was known as a lesbian before I was even before I'd even lost my virginity, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. It was only because I had one friend that was a girl and nobody else, and that was because before that, I told this girl that was that one that was really mean to me at the bus stop, because we were friends before that, about my parents and about the fact that my dad left and that my mom brought us here to Elsinore. I felt that it was okay to be able to tell her about my life a little bit and the fact that my mom studied metaphysics. Well, she turned that around and thought that I was into witchcraft and devil worshipping and all this stuff. And so then all of a sudden, people at school thought I had voodoo dolls of the principal, for crying out loud. It was the worst possible experience for me in junior high school because of one girl deciding that she was going to say all of this horrible stuff about me. Well, then I found out that her mother killed herself, that her father was a drug addict, and her grandmother was a pill popper. So she had a horrible upbringing. She was completely depressed and in a really bad mental state. And that's why she ended up doing what she did. And unfortunately, she died of a brain aneurysm 8 months pregnant in prison, is what I found out about her. That was her fate. But, bullies are victims, and they deal with stuff at home, and we have to have compassion for them. Instead of being angry and disciplining them, we really need to find the underlying cause, bottom line. So, when being bullied at home, that's going to make it harder to control your aggression towards others, because you're going to project that anger out, which I was just saying. And most children that are bullied or do the bullying are susceptible to depression, incredible depression. And so they are also susceptible to suicide. So when they talk about bullying and suicide, they're not just talking about the ones that are being bullied in school. They're talking about the ones that are also the bully victims, that are the ones that are projecting their pain. And, there's reasons, there's methods to people's madness, and we really need to psychoanalyze those methods and really understand why they're doing what they're doing. So there's two types of bullies. There's the bully victim, those that are bullied by some sort of an authoritarian figure like this lady up above. Then they project their pain out onto others, which I was talking about. And often the snubbed ones, like what I was talking about here, these snubbed, outcast children end up being the ones that are the bullies. And that is going to stem from families who are harsh or physically abusive. And then there's the contentious bullies. Those are the controversial students that are usually bigger in size, or a jock, or that popular girl that decides that she's going to rule the school. Oh, those girls. The high peer status due to appearance, athleticism, but resented and feared for behavior towards some children. So they're popular because they're resented and feared. Okay, getting to another